Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to the Good Old Gamer. So we got ourselves some pretty interesting news that's come up over the weekend and just here today. We have a new 3D Mark benchmark coming out that's supposedly going to take advantage of all the latest and greatest ray tracing features out there to really push graphics cards that we have here today. So that's going to be very interesting. We also have BIOSTAR doubling down on crypto mining as it's falling apart. But is it really? I mean, we have companies now just expressly coming out with press releases saying, hey, buy our pre-built mining rigs. So maybe it's not going away like we were hoping. And then Nvidia got hacked the hackers, and is now dealing with the fact that the hackers are winning and selling off their proprietary technology. So we're going to talk about all that here today and more. So let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, so kicking things off with 3D Mark, UL preparing 3D Mark Speedway benchmark, focusing on DirectX 12 Ultimate features. Now, I know a lot of you guys, like myself and Paul especially, he really loves playing 3D Mark, and having new, different ways of testing graphics cards is always fun. So there's not a whole lot here. Basically, what they're doing is they're taking advantage of the latest ways of doing mesh shading, variable rate shading, the latest ways of calculating real-time ray tracing, global illumination, and things like that to really push modern graphics cards to their absolute limits and keep up with the latest technologies as they arrive. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Should be coming out later this year. It is being done with Lenovo, so their Legion products. Let them fund it so this way they can sell it to us cheaper as a DLC later this year. So I'm pretty interested to see how this goes and see how it really compares Nvidia to AMD, and maybe it's more in line with what we see traditionally in real game benchmarks. And then next up, BIOSTAR to waste AMD Radeon RX 580 graphics cards for its pre-built mining systems. Now, I would argue that that title's a little hyperbolic. They're not really wasting them. They're taking them and turning a profit off of them. As you can see here, it's basically just a giant case with a ton of graphics cards pre-built in there. Cooling's already set up, so you don't have to jimmy rig it yourself. So if you wanted a cleaner setup, and it looks like you probably stick this in a rack, you know, for a lot of mining out there, or people that do a lot of mining, this might be worth it. Now, I'm going to read a bit from the article because the guys over at Video Cards do take some umbrage with this. It should be noted that BIOSTAR has always been on good terms with miners. The company releases new mining motherboards on a frequent basis, and it does not even try to hide it. In fact, the company thinks it's even a good idea to send out press releases covering those launches, which is especially concerning when graphics cards are still hard to find at quote-unquote normal prices. Therefore, seeing a company that receives the bulk of AMD Radeon GPUs is now publicly advertising its pre-built mining systems with not one, but 8 graphics cards is simply hard to understand. Well, I'm not really sure. Does BIOSTAR really get the bulk of AMD's graphics cards? That I'm unaware of. You can let me know down in the comment section below. I figured it'd be somebody like Sapphire or somebody like that. To make matters worse, these cards are not even pure mining cards, but actual gaming models. You can kind of see it. It's a little hard to see, but you can see the video outputs through the pictures. So yeah, these are just regular DGPUs meant for gaming. These are not the mining variants. Unlike gaming cards, mining models usually are equipped with subpar cooling solutions, limited warranty, and a lack of display outputs, as I just mentioned. In this case, though, BIOSTAR is using a shipment of fresh RX 580s for its mining system. How is AMD okay with one of its board partners actively participating in profiting from crypto mining? We are not sure. So yeah, you can see right down here, this is the official press release where they go over, you know, you're getting 232 mega hash, give or take 5%, and they go over the specs, blah, blah, blah. That I'm not super interested in. But yes, it just goes to show that BIOSTAR is very proud of their new product and want to advertise it. And I guess really the question is, why is AMD allowing this? Now, this is one of the things that's very hard for us as the individual that's impacted by these business practices to take a step back and look at this objectively. AMD makes the graphics processors, the GPUs, and then sells them to whoever. Once they do that, AMD's done. Their transaction is done. They don't care thereafter. They sold their products at the prices they wanted to sell them for, and they're hands off from there. This came up a lot when I was talking with Kyle Bennett about, you know, Nvidia wanting to basically get rid of reviewers. It's not so much that Nvidia wants to get rid of reviewers, they just don't care about that process. Nvidia can sell their GPUs to, all of these AIBs and system integrators. And past that, they simply just don't care. They're done. Their job is complete at that point. Same thing goes with AMD. So it's not really so much condemnation that we should have for AMD. BIOSTAR said, hey, we want X amount, and they paid the price that AMD wanted to sell for them. They're pretty much off the hook at that point, which I know a lot of people are going to get mad at that because it's like, no, they should be in charge of their own products. I agree, but that's just not the way that the industry works. We always assume that's how things went because everything kind of fell in line properly up until here recently, but it's not. So you have to hold the system integrator, AIB, OEMs, whoever. Those people are the ones that are making these products. So the only person to really look at and go, why are you doing this, would be BIOSTAR. BIOSTAR's getting all these RX 580 graphics chips, and they're choosing to put them in mining rigs instead of putting them out for regular people to buy. RX 580 is still good. It's just as fast as a 6500 XT with more features. So people would probably rather have those than a 6500 XT, and those are still selling for $250 to $300 right now. So there's a lot of money to be made on graphics cards that are now essentially 6 years old, because it's really just a 480 with higher clocks. And they're selling for more than they did 6 years ago. So not selling cards to the general public just shows that BIOSTAR has bigger interest in this other market. So if you want to condemn anybody personally, you need to go after BIOSTAR and just stop supporting them, or go, hey, they found a market that's working for them and it is what it is. Unfortunately, there's no right or wrong when it comes to this. As long as everybody at the end of the transaction is happy, the real problem is ultimately these companies cannot produce enough graphics cards to satisfy that market as well as the gaming market. So ultimately, you can lay the blame on AMD and Nvidia for not being able to produce enough graphics cards. And that's kind of out of their hands too, with everything going on. Obviously, they didn't expect supply to be as high as, or the demand to be as high as it is. So there's no way to plan that out 2 or 3 years ahead of time. So this is just a bad storm of things out there. It doesn't look good. It's bad optics. I'm not going to disagree with that. I honestly don't think BIOSTAR sells discrete graphics cards here in the United States. I don't remember ever seeing them. That's why them saying that they get the bulk of supply from AMD seems a little strange. I'm unfamiliar with that, unless maybe like Power Color's part of BIOSTAR or one of these other larger companies that we're familiar with. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section down below. I don't know the hierarchies and who owns who, but that might be the case. But any which way you want to slice it, they bought a product, they built a different product using it, and yeah, you could be a little upset that there's not enough graphics cards to go around. That part I agree with, but to be mad at AMD for something that's completely out of their hands, that one you just got to let go. And honestly, BIOSTAR, if you don't want to support them, don't buy their stuff. It's that simple. Those are your options. But the less from them you buy, the more likely they're going to shift their focus to GPU miners. You see the kind of conundrum that you're in. You're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. So it's just not a great situation. And obviously we all wish that there was enough supply so everybody could get whatever they want at reasonable prices. So hopefully later this year we'll have that, but we'll just have to wait and see. So I'm just going to blow through these next two stories. It just goes to show that Intel Arc GPUs are starting to come out in laptops. We have the Samsung Galaxy Book 2 Pro to feature Intel Arc Alchemist discrete graphics GPU. You can go down here to their own specs, and on the 15-inch model, it's really hard to see. I'll try to blow this up for you guys. The 15.6, you can get the Iris Z, which is the integrated, and then you have Intel Arc as an option. And that ties into Lenovo introduces their IdeaPad Gaming 3 series with up to an RTX 3060 or Intel Arc A730M GPU. So kind of the same thing. Let's scroll down. This is a press release, so this is official. This comes straight from Lenovo. And as we blow it up here, you can see up to the RTX 3060, and then you have your Intel Arc A370M graphics chip. So they are starting to roll out, so we will start getting hard numbers from at least the laptop side here in the not too distant future. All right, so this story actually came out, and I meant to put it in Friday's video, but it got cut out because I had to reshoot that, and honestly, that just got a little messed up. But Nvidia is investigating potential cyber attack on its internal system. So all we got was they believe that somebody got in there and started stealing some data from Nvidia. So the very next day, Nvidia allegedly hacked the ransomware attackers by encrypting 1 terabyte of its stolen data. So Nvidia hacks the hackers. I actually thought that that was pretty cool. And going after one of the world's leaders in AI engineering, hacking their stuff is going to be extremely dangerous if they do have crazy like AI technology that could break through firewalls real easy. Until you go ahead and go after them, you don't really know that. So Nvidia might have some technology out there that nobody's really seen before, that they're hiding on the back end. Maybe like the US government has it and them and nobody else. But anyways, I just found this kind of amusing. They went and they found their data and then encrypted it. Then today, the hacker group threatens to leak the Nvidia GPU driver and firmware data already selling GA102/104 LHR algorithm bypass. So, okay, the hacking group is Lapsus. They claim that they've gained access to the Nvidia servers for more than a week and been able to exfiltrate 1 terabyte of data. So essentially the data that Nvidia did go in and encrypt, according to them, they already had it backed up elsewhere, so it doesn't really matter. Now, unlike the LHR V2 story that we had a couple of weeks ago, this seems to be legit as they are leaking out bits and pieces of information, and it seems to be way more legit. So there's definitely a huge market of people out there. Obviously, crypto mining's still a thing, and there are plenty of people out there that want to get more value out of what they already own. So going ahead and bypassing LHR completely is probably the easiest way to do that, and they are now selling that out there. So looks like Nvidia did go ahead and block them or go ahead and encrypt their data, but once again, they're saying that they already had it backed up, so it doesn't matter. So there are people out there already paying these guys to unlock their GPUs, supposedly. So my stance on this hasn't really changed since the last story about the V2 LHR unlocker thing from last week. This mainly affects people that already have a lot of graphics cards or a farm or whatever, and then their ROI is already pretty good on those. They're not looking to buy new graphics cards to then crack them to get those extra mega hashes. What this is basically going to do is extend the life and how long these GPU miners can go and keep profitability. So as things get harder, as the price of crypto starts going down and decreasing with all the turbulence in the world, who knows how this is gonna go, having that extra overhead would be extremely valuable for a lot of people. This isn't for like Joe Blow, like if you're sitting there with 10 or 20 graphics cards mining, it's not for you. It's somebody who has hundreds, if not thousands or tens of thousands of graphics cards. Yeah, it might be worth paying $100,000 or something to go ahead and get an extra 25% performance out of your graphics cards. So, you know, it's just a numbers game. So I could definitely see that this would make sense for a hacking group to want this data, to find a real way to bypass it. And honestly, this just shows that Nvidia should just drop it at this point in time, be like, get rid of the LHR thing through a driver update, and it completely eliminates these guys' business model. It just does. It's like, well, congratulations, nobody's gonna pay you because we'll just give it out for free. And I think that that would be the best response. Now, what I would like to see if these guys did get all the Nvidia driver data and how everything works, I hope that they do throw it out online to the open source community, and then some communities out there will actually start building custom, open sourced, away from Nvidia driver sets. So this way we can support older graphics cards, or maybe they have some black box stuff that can now be, you know, some light can be shed on it, and then the industry could be better moving forward. So I think that would be really cool. I mean, obviously stealing information from a company is never good, but if some good can come out of it, I would like to see that. But yeah, as far as I can tell, I don't think this is going to make too much of a difference in terms of pricing of GPUs here today. New ones on the shelf. I really just think it's going to keep the secondhand market, you know, from getting flooded maybe a little bit longer. That is all. And then, of course, if we can get open source stuff, that would be really excellent. So I'm hoping something good happens here. But yeah, I don't think that this is that big of a deal. I just find it funny that, you know, just attacking Nvidia and then they attack you back. I find that kind of amusing, though. All right, and then the last little bit here, we have, unsurprisingly, the new NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3070 Ti laptop GPU with a 105-watt TGP was found to be slower than an RTX 3070 with 150 watts. So there's not a whole lot to talk about here, other than the fact that this is just marketing. And that's basically what I do want to talk about. Yes, there's literally no reason to take a graphics card that has more CUDA cores and lower it to a TDP lower than other graphics cards and expect higher performance. It just does not work that way. In reality, there's such diminishing returns there. You could probably take an RTX 3060 laptop and just get it down to 105 watts, and it'll probably perform almost the same as a 3070 Ti laptop at 105 watts. The TDP and the power consumption is the limiting factor, and just throwing larger dies and more RAM and buses, that does not resolve anything because there's simply not enough power there to take advantage of it. It's like using DDR1 400 megahertz on Alder Lake. There's no way you're ever going to get the maximum performance out of that. Obviously, you can't use DDR1 on an Alder Lake CPU. I'm saying that hypothetically. My point is when there's an external limiting factor, there's no reason at throwing all sorts of money at these bigger graphics cards. They're only doing that to make it sound bigger. So it's like, oh, I got a 3070 Ti in my laptop and I spent, I don't know, $2,000 or something on it. It's like, well, my RTX 3060 laptop I got for under $1,000 is beating the crap out of your GPU and laptop and whatnot. So I just wanted to point this out. If you happen to be in the market to buying a laptop, don't fall for the names that are on there. You have to figure out what the power target is. And if the power is too low for that graphics tier, so like for a 3070 Ti, that's got to be at least 150 watts to get anywhere near making sense for that class of a card. If you're around the 100 watt range, you really want a 3060. And if you need sub 100, 3050 Ti, something like that. That's on the Nvidia side. Obviously, you can scale with AMD as well. AMD GPUs are a little bit more efficient, so you might get a little bit more out of them at those lower power targets. But regardless, just don't overspend on naming because you're just not going to get extra performance unless you overclock it, which completely eliminates the point of them putting that power target on there. And the cooling's not really designed for it. You see what I'm saying? This is why I don't like them having these wide ranges for graphics cards. To me, an RTX 3060 M should be one spec, and then that's it. No max Qs, no none of that. If you want to have a max Q lineup, make it an MX 360 or something like that. And, you know, it's a whole separate class, and it has its own lineup. I don't like this because you just don't know what you're getting, and this is just bad marketing. I just wanted to bring it up if you happen to be in that boat. Don't fall for that. Make sure you know how much power the GPU is going to be fed, how the cooling is able to handle that. You can check out plenty of reviews out there. Every laptop on the planet's reviewed, and you can see if it does a decent enough job. And as long as it does that, then it's worth buying. But my ultimate point is don't spend money on stuff that you're literally going to see no benefit from. So speaking of benefits, we're going to go ahead and check out today's good old game of the day. All right, and today's good old game of the day is the classic Warcraft and Warcraft 2. For me personally, Warcraft 2 was one of the games that really got me into PC gaming, like, firmly. Now, this came out, I believe, in 1994, so I was already playing games like Secret of Monkey Island and Wolfenstein, but between Doom and this game, I was pretty much sold. So I was playing RTSs all the time. That's why I don't play them much anymore, because I played them all way back when. But Warcraft 2 is a classic game. It's much simpler and more basic than a lot of modern RTSs, rather. So if you're not familiar with the genre, you haven't played it too much, this is a good starting point, because this is where most of us started. And honestly, it's still a great game here today. I played it maybe a year ago and still had a blast with the campaigns, and it was a lot of fun. And then you can move up to more modern RTSs with more complicated mechanics from there. So I definitely recommend picking this up. Warcraft 1 is definitely even more simplified, more basic, and yeah, you might just want to skip this one. I like it because it reminds me of way back when. I did play Warcraft 1 before 2. It wasn't as revolutionary to me as Warcraft 2, but it's still nice to play through, and it only cost a couple of bucks. So I'd strongly recommend at least getting Warcraft 2, but if you want to get both of them, the bundle is a pretty good discount. Alrighty guys, that'll pretty much do it for us here today. Let me know what you guys think about Nvidia getting hacked and then them just hacking the hackers back. I personally find that very amusing. So it just lets you know that Nvidia's like, oh yeah, you want to come after us? We'll go after you. Now, obviously, these people are smarter than the average bears and had everything squared away. That whole situation, I believe for Nvidia, it just makes sense. Just get rid of LHR through a driver update, and hopefully, you know, that just means that these people don't make any money. And then I don't think it's going to make too big of a difference for GPU mining at this point in time, personally, but who knows? It could. But regardless, if this comes out and we get open source stuff anyway, it's not really going to matter. So they might as well do it, and then it makes NVIDIA look like the good guys. That's just my thought. Want to hear your thoughts on that one. And then I'm really interested to hear what you guys think about BIOSTAR. My take on that was very, I guess you could say, grounded, but I know a lot of people out there are going to be very mad about that. It's like, oh no, these companies should totally have control. I completely agree. I believe that AMD and Nvidia should be ultimately held responsible for the end product, but that's just not the way that their business model works. They basically insulated themselves to where it's like, well, we made the thing, we sold the thing, past that, we're hands off. I don't like that because it just allows them to do that and be like, it's not my responsibility. They don't have to answer any questions. They did their job essentially. And it's just passing the buck for ultimately what is their product. You know, it's like if you bought a Chevy in parts and then the guy who assembled it and there's something wrong, blaming the guy who assembled it. You see what I'm saying? It's still a Chevy car. Just somebody else put the screws in. You see what I'm saying? So I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on that one, what your take is. And if there's a better way of holding accountability on these companies, I would like to hear your thoughts on that one. But alrighty, guys, if you want to chat about this kind of stuff with me and Paul from Not an Apple Fan, go ahead and click the Techonomics podcast link down below, subscribe, hit the notification bell. This is the stuff we talk about twice a week live with you guys, and we have a blast. If you want to subscribe and join this channel, hit the little join button down below or become a Patreon member, get Discord access, and then that gets you access to the After Hours podcast, where Paul and I talk more about like political things and things that are going on in the world. And those will also be going live starting this Saturday. So if you want to join in there, you can go ahead, click the little join button down below, click on the Patreon link in the description, get Discord access. You can chat with me whenever you want as well. And of course, you get access to that. So if you wanted to do that, thank you so much for your support. And that's really all I have for you guys here today. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.